Thanks for tuning in. I'm Ben Aston, and this is the Digital Project Manager Podcast. So are you actually good at what you do? Deep down, do you sometimes wonder if you are a bit of a charlatan, a project manager charlatan, no less? Or do you even sometimes worry if you're in the wrong career altogether? Today's podcast will give you all the answers. You can discover how good you really are and work out if you're cut for this game. And a bit of a spoiler alert, you probably are. You're doing fine. You're not a fraud. You just feel like one, so keep at it. So today I'm joined by the wonderful Lina Calin. Lina, this is her second time on the show, and she works at an agency called Foster Maid. And if you want to know all about Lina, you can listen to our previous podcast with her. But in her free time, Lina does lots of exciting things, including a food blog that you should check out. And she's into food. So actually, we should probably start, Lina, by asking you about what have you eaten today, because I'm sure it was exciting.
Actually, today has been a whirlwind, and I haven't eaten anything yet. But
what? You haven't eaten anything?
Blasphemy. But I am excited. I have some chicken marinating when I get home that I'm excited to put on the grill.
Okay. You are prepared.
I am.
I can't. Are you serious? You have not eaten anything today?
I haven't. I looked at some chocolate that we had in the kitchen earlier and just walked right on by it.
Lina, I cannot believe. I feel like we should probably stop talking right away, and you should go and get yourself some food.
This comes first.
Okay. Well, we won't drag this out because I'm worried that you're going to faint. Talking about cooking, I don't know if you bought anything in the Black Friday sales, but I bought an Instapot.
Oh, very nice.
Kind of a big move for me.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to using that. I have used it already, actually. The first thing I cooked was rice.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, well, start with the basics and work from there, I thought. But are you, apart from your marinating chicken, what else is on the menu this weekend?
I think I'm going to go to a farmer's market tomorrow and see what kind of vegetables I can pick up. I love vegetables. Other than that, I don't think I have anything planned. I'll probably end up making some kind of soup. I've been eyeing soup recipes for the past week. Not really cold enough here for me to feel, quote, justified, but it's a craving and I'm going to make it happen.
It's not cold enough to be soupy. What's your favorite vegetable then?
Oh my goodness. I love Brussels sprouts.
Really?
Really do. You can do so much with them. My favorite way to cook them or to have them is just cut up really thinly raw and just toss some vinegar and olive oil and salt and pepper. And you let that sit for a little while and it gets soft. It's really good. But I also put them on the grill. I roast them, saute them, bacon, onions, garlic, whatever you're feeling. Really good.
Wow. So if anyone's interested, there will be a Brussels sprout party at Lina's this weekend. So
everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome. If you're a DPM, I can't remember where you are. Where are you?
I'm in Virginia. In
Virginia.
Yep.
Yeah, so just head to Virginia. It's a small place. You'll see Lina. She's the one cooking with sprouts.
Right.
Okay, but apart from cooking, what else is new since we last spoke? What any interesting projects you're working on right now?
I am working still. I think we talked about it on the last podcast, but I'm still working on a lot of process and documentation that's happening in the company. Really excited about experimenting with Team Gantt, which was recommended by the esteemed Rachel Gertz. Taking a look at that, hoping that it solves some problems that we're dealing with inside the agency as far as resourcing and capacity and scheduling, projections, and all of that. Well, I would say last month, but we are officially in December. So in October, I was so pleased to attend the DPM Summit in Las Vegas, which was fantastic. I loved every moment as I do. It was my second time going, so as I did last year.
What was the highlight for you?
Oh my goodness. Everything was really fantastic. Of course, it's always incredible to be around other people who understand. As one of my DPM friends said, to go to an event that is put on by project managers so you can just see in the small details the things that have been thought of and organized and very well thought through. But there was a workshop that I went to. I don't remember the name of the presenter, but it was an improv workshop that really, I think, gave me a different perspective on thinking on the spot and communication and focusing on the right things. And I really, really enjoyed that perspective and how it related to project management.
That sounds fun. And are you now pursuing your improv career outside of work too?
I am not. I can't say that I am, but I have definitely incorporated a few techniques into my PM work and my personal communication styles also.
So what? Yeah, tell us about like what? Give us an example.
So, for example, yesterday I was talking with some of the management here, and we were talking about scope creep, which is something, of course, that a lot of people struggle with, but something that we're working on corralling internally. And the idea of not just saying no to a request that's out of scope or that needs to be taken care of later, but also surrounding that no statement with the other things that need to be said. So no, or we think that's out of scope. We think that's not a great idea according to our project goals. That will affect our timeline. It will affect our budget. All of those statements that might apply depending on the situation, applying that. And I got a little smile on my face as we were talking, remembering the improv workshop and saying, in improv, I think one of the phrases that you're supposed to say often is yes and when you're presented with a situation or some kind of proposed character. But in this situation, it's kind of no and so just, applying that a little bit different, but making sure that we continue the conversation and lead it on and draw this environment around the statement.
Okay, so in this scenario, then, so a client says to you, "Oh, can you just try another creative execution on that?" Your response is no, and no, and.
I don't think it would be directly, maybe not in quite the same words, but that concept, spreading that concept to the team to remember that it shouldn't be just the no statement.
Right. Got you. Okay. No, but.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but we could.
Right.
Change the font. Yeah. Cool. Well, that sounds fun. So let's talk about your article, and I think it's I think it's a brilliant article, really, which is about reassuring ourselves that we're doing a good job. And I think it's good for us to be honest with the fact that managing projects can be scary a lot of the time. The fun thing about digital is that it's always changing, and as time goes by, we switch agencies, we change up our clients, we change up the technologies and projects that we're working on. So because of this, because it's constantly changing, constantly evolving, we're doing different things. We can find ourselves on a project and think, what the hell am I doing here? Like, how on earth is it that I'm the one that's in charge of leading this thing? I've got no idea what we're doing. And I think what makes this particularly hard is by nature, as PMs, we tend to be control freaks. We like to have a plan. We like to be in control. And if we don't have a plan and we don't know what's going on, it can be pretty stressful. So Lina's written this great article on how we can know if we're a good project manager. She raises 5 proof points that we'll talk about in a minute. But I think we should start by talking about, the article is about, whether or not you know you're doing a good job. But I thought it'd be interesting to talk about whether or not we know whether or not we're a good project manager. I've written some posts on this where I try and kind of simplify it down to the essence of leadership. And I kind of borrow this idea. It's about character, competence, and chemistry. It's Bill Hybels' courageous leadership kind of model. Character being about leadership, about maintaining personal integrity, being calm under pressure. Our competence, which is kind of our basics of reading, writing, arithmetic. But I include in that having a good kind of creative eye, technical now, some commercial awareness, and then refining your chemistry. So that diplomacy skills, the people skills that we have that help ensure that you are kind of relating to your team and your clients well. But I'd be interested to know, like, before we know whether or not we're doing a good job, just to kind of start on this idea of actually what makes a good project manager. So I'd be interested to know what you think, Lina, in terms of what is it that makes a good PM a good PM?
I love that question. And I think it's really interesting, especially the more that we see how different people from different walks of life and different backgrounds find their way into project management. It makes the range of personality types and interests that we have in this industry really varied. But I think the important things are very similar to the principles of courageous leadership that you've talked about. I think it's important to have empathy. I think it's important to, value communication and understanding other people, and then also being interested in continuous learning, continuous development, which I think leads to that competence part that you're talking about, and just making sure that you're able to stay calm in situations and kind of spread that to the team. I think what we do is very difficult and it's very stressful at times. And being able to maintain a clear head, even when things get tricky, is a really important characteristic of a project manager.
Cool. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about, like, even those things that you mentioned, those things that I mentioned as well, they're really hard things to quantify. Right?
They are.
Like, how do you, empathy. How do you know if you're a good empathizer? Is that what an empathy? How do you know if you're doing a good job or not? Other than, like, there's no way to empirically measure that. I guess you could look at things like how many people say that they don't want to be on my team because I'm just a nasty person. But other like, it's really hard to quantify these things, right? Like, are you leading well? Are you competent? Do you, like, chemistry, empathy? These are really hard things to quantify. So I think it's really interesting that, you kind of pick up on this idea of, like, well, how do we know if we're doing a good job if we can't quantify these things? So in your article, you talk about, firstly, about caring about your job and your projects, which I think is really a really good point. Like, having integrity, doing the right thing for your client and your team. But let's be honest for a second. Like, yes, we might care about our job, we might care about the projects, but often we're working on really boring or dull projects. Like, that's just the reality of life. So, or, the client is a bit of a pain in the ass. So when that happens and you're like, I hate this project, I hate this job, what do you do? Do you find yourself, how do you make yourself care, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when you feel like you don't care?
Honestly, I think that boring projects don't really affect me as much, since I think project management is so exciting. And that sounds like such a typical, what a good answer. But
that's a great answer, Lina.
I think the product that I'm building, and this might not be the best thing to say, but the product that I'm building is not what gets me excited. It's my interactions with the team and with the client. It's keeping everything on track, keeping it in order. It's seeing how we take an idea and making that a final product. The product along the way is really cool. And it is great to have a product that we're excited about. But to me, the idea of taking something from a conception to an actual tangible thing that's going to help further a business, and all of the puzzles that happen in the meantime, and the interactions and the communication and the different personality types that happen along that road, that's the exciting thing to me.
So it's the process,
Exactly.
not the project that keeps you engaged in it. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think maybe though, like maybe I'm getting long in the tooth and I'm jaded, but I think one of the I think that one of the things I found is that when it's sometimes hard to get a team engaged on a project if they're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. I don't want to do another banner ad. This is just lame.
Right.
So then the whole process becomes a bit more of a chore. And I think that's where it's tricky. And that's where we have to be kind of energize our team on, hey, we can make this fun, guys.
Right.
And get them actually to care about it. Because if you don't care about it, it kind of it cascades down to the team, and then the final output's crap and no one's having a good time. So a bit of positivity goes a long way. So Lini's saying the right things. So next talk about people coming to you to solve problems. And I think this is another great indicator if you're doing a good job. If you're the fixer, then that's what we're here for. We're here to kind of grease the wheels, to forge a path for our team to follow. And I don't know about your experience, but in my experience, that's everything from fixing a wonky desk to getting people a new laptop or software on the machine to make them save time. In fact, software on the machines, I find this all the time. You'll, a developer or someone or a designer will say, like I've just been spending 4 hours on this because, there's this great tool we could use, but I don't have it. And I'm like, well, how much does it cost? Or tell me how much this thing is. And they're like, oh yeah, it's $10. And I'm like, you've just spent 4 hours on it. Like, that's worth more than $10.
Right.
And we're buying it now.
Yep.
But like, so people come to us to solve problems, but where do you go when you're not really sure how to solve the problem?
That's a great question. I think that happens every day. Honestly, I go to Google. I go to I have a couple, there's a couple of different online communities of digital project managers, and those are invaluable when there's a question or something that I don't understand. I think because of how project managers speak with confidence, I guess I'll speak for myself. I think because I speak with confidence, it's assumed often that I know more than I actually do. But it's important to not be afraid to admit that you don't know something and say, don't worry, I've got this, I'll figure it out for you, or let's work through that together. And then, seeking additional education through mentorships or the communities that are available, or just, a search engine to help answer the questions that you don't know how to answer yourself.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. I think this happens all the time. Like the people come to me and I'm like, they're like, I just don't know how we're going to do this. And I sometimes I say to them, well, like, have you tried finding a solution to this? Have you actually tried Googling this? Because that's what I'm about to do.
Right.
And I'm going to come back to you in half an hour and come back with like the something from the first page of Google. But it's amazing how, part of the role of being a digital PM is being a good Googler.
Yes.
So don't play it down. Not everyone can do that. And you talk about as well, like having a firm hand on your projects. Like, if you're doing a good job, if you've got a firm hand on your project. And for me, this is really where the rubber hits the road, in terms of, if you're doing a good job, if your projects are under control or largely under control. So I'm interested to know how or how you control your projects. How do you know if you've got a firm hand on your projects? Like, what do you use to kind of ascertain, hey, we're on track or we're not on track? Just love to know your thoughts on that.
So I, compare the progress of the project according to the project schedule. We compare how developers are doing meeting their estimates. And I think a lot of my role is to encourage them or, push them to meet those estimates, and to continue to have tasks turning over as was originally projected. Of course, the typical measurements of, trying to bring a project in under budget, trying to make sure that the clients are satisfied and, that given the opportunity, they would, work with us again, that they enjoy, that the team doesn't feel stressed or overworked. But I think that, in addition to those traditional measurements, which are very important, and I think they're very expected measurements, their memory or the reminder that things are always going to happen that are out of our control. And, we're really fooling ourselves if we think that we'll be able to control everything on our projects. People are fallible, and that includes us, and I think the one of the most important ways to keep a firm hand on a project is to remain calm in the face of the unknown, and then to have solutions to problems even before they come up, because we've already thought about and prepared for them. And then we set the expectations for how the members of our team, both on the client side and on our creative teams, how they're expected to work through a project and contribute, and make sure that we're aware that it could go differently than the plan is set, and to just be prepared for that and make everybody aware.
Yeah. And I think I think kind of what you talk about in terms of those kind of basic elements of actually keeping track of, because it can be tempting sometimes to be lazy around doing our reconciliations on like estimate versus actuals, and having a really solid process for that, and just having the discipline to be kind of doing the due diligence of running reports and working out whether or not you're on track, I think is a really important aspect of it. Because if you're not basing it on any data, it can sometimes, like projects can sometimes just kind of run away with themselves. Particularly if we're kind of stretched, then we're like, I think that one's going all right, so let's not worry about that one this week. But keeping your finger on the pulse, I think is really important. And I think one of the this is an interesting one, I thought, where you said another sign you're doing a good job is your team wants more of you. And are you still because last time I think we spoke, you were the only PM in your agency. Is that still the case?
I think that we have extended an offer to a new PM who hopefully should be starting pretty soon.
Oh, no pressure. If they're probably listening to you right now, I hope they know they had an offer.
Yes.
So that's good, right? So you were the only PM there. Now people think, hey, this is a good idea. We need more Linas. So now they're doubling the team. The team is doubling in size.
It is.
That's a pretty good job.
Yes, it's a really great thing, and I think it can be difficult at first when it's you get in and you're kind of showing the benefit of project management, and we want you on more projects, and at least for me as an achiever type personality, and as you said, a perfectionist, and somebody who really who has that kind of mindset, you want to continue to improve and to give the skills that you're offering to more projects, and before you know it, you find that you're stretched too thin. And it can cause I think some ripple effects that aren't ideal, but just acknowledging early on the fact that your team wants more of you, that they want more project management, and they want more projects to have project management. And I think this especially applies in the case of a solo PM, but it's a really great sign, and it means that you're doing your job well, and that you've shown the benefit of what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think the kind of transition in an agency where there are no PMs, and then you start introducing project management, and then the rate at which you then scale, I think is so important, because when you're starting out, you have to kind of carve a bit of a niche for yourself and work out, okay, this is what the role of project management is going to be. But then as you become successful, you very quickly start being stretched too thin. So recruiting early, probably earlier than you think, I think is really important. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll be stretched too thin, your effectiveness will diminish, and then people will be like, oh, I don't think this project management thing's working.
Right.
So as a little handy tip, make sure you're recruiting early. Otherwise, you will look bad, whether or not you like it. But I think kind of all that we've covered off, and you mentioned this in your article, like the reality is the job we're doing is a difficult one. But just because it can feel like sometimes that we are doing a bad job, we're not necessarily doing a bad job, but it doesn't necessarily reflect the quality of our work. Just because we're being plunged into something new, or we feel like we're out of our depth a bit, that really doesn't define our worth. What defines our worth is these things that we've been talking about caring about the job and the projects, that we're being leveraged well, that people are coming to us to solve problems, and that we're in control of our projects. And like Lina's situation, I think is a great one where people want more of you. That's a good sign that that you're doing a good job. So Lina, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great having you with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
And if you'd like to contribute to the conversation, if you've got some thoughts on how you know if you're doing a good job, then head over to the Digital Project Manager, to the community section of the site, join the Slack conversation, and also comment on the article. But until next time, thanks for listening.